So this evening I've got a beautiful sirloin here. This is a great steak to cook on the pan because it's got a wonderful strip of fat on the side, so it takes to the heat very well. You can really sear it in a hot fashion, and if you don't want the fat, you can simply remove the fat once you finish cooking it. So you know you've got the best of both worlds if you want it. You can also do this with a fillet or a ribeye steak. It doesn't work that well with a rump steak because a rump steak seems to be so heavy, and there's no clear fat in a rump steak. It doesn't take to a pan as well. So what we've got here, the first thing is to have a steak at room temperature. That's rule number one. If the steak is still cold, when you put it in the pan, it'll reduce the temperature of the pan and the steak will stew instead of caramelize. So you want the steak at room temperature. That means you have to rest it for at least half an hour once you take it out the fridge, just to make sure that it's at a room temperature. Second thing, you need a good non-stick pan. Get it very hot. You can see it's on 8 out of 10. So the main thing is when you put the steak in the pan, you want to hear that sear. If you don't hear the sear, you have to start again. Now this is getting quite hot. I can see the steam coming up. So what you do, you put your steak in the pan, and then what you do, you can hear that sear. Now that's critical. If you don't hear the sear, you have to just actually leave a little bit longer and then come back in a few minutes until you get the sear. So what we do, we just want to seal the steak on both sides. So we turn it quickly. This stops the blood from coming out. So you're just going to let it sear on both sides. And what you can do, you can just put it on its fat side just to seal in the fat. Get it nice and crispy. Now this process takes about a minute, just searing the steak. Now what you do, you leave it on one side for about 3 minutes. You use your eye when you cook, and you check and you see when it's caramelized and got the dark bits on it, then you know you can turn it. So this will take about 3 minutes. This steak is about 200 grams. Okay, welcome back. So the steak's been going for about 3 or 4 minutes, and you can just see, if I lift it up and have a look, you can see that wonderful caramelization. That means the natural sugars of the steak has come out, and it's going to be a lot more tasty. That is why you have to get the pan very hot. If the pan isn't hot, you won't get the natural sugars of the meat coming out. So now what we do, this isn't a massive steak. I like mine medium rare, so literally you give it 1 more minute. What I'm going to do now, if you want to get more flavor, I add a knob of butter. You don't have to use the butter if you want to be healthy. You can just use a little bit of olive oil too. This is a very good non-stick pan, so you don't need that much lubrication. Right, now that's been going for about another minute. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the heat off, and I'm going to add a squeeze of lemon juice. There's the lemon. Okay, now that lemon juice will just cut through the fattiness of the steak. So what you've done effectively, you've made your own little sauce. You've got the butter and you've got the lemon juice. And in the meantime, I've also seasoned the steak. Salt and pepper on both sides, critical. But you only season it once the steak has been seared. Otherwise, the salt will draw out liquid from the steak. And that is how you do a steak. Simple. 5 minutes. A restaurant quality steak. And one extra point is that you have to let the steak rest. Once you turn off the heat and you take the steak out of the pan, you have to let it rest for probably about the same time that you cooked it, so about 5 minutes. You rest the steak because if you eat it straight away, the juices are close to the surface of the steak, and as soon as you cut the steak, the juices will run out and the steak will be dry. So you have to let the steak sit for at least 3 or 4 minutes until those juices go back to the center of the steak, and you'll keep your steak juicy. Cheerio, have a good one.